Hello everyone, bienvenue à tous, bienvenidos, welcome in person and online audience to the official launch of the Interagency Evidence Synthesis Report, What Work to Amplify the Right Voice of Youth in Education and Employment. So before we begin, let me acknowledge the range partner and audience from various stakeholders and various levels such as level dignitary, UN colleague, youth groups, civil society, and organizations. We have some housekeeping rules. So for those who have their phones, if you can just mute your phone. And then for those who are online, we have translation available. We have French and Spanish, but if you have some technical issues, you can just read the captions. And then we will have Q&A question at the end. So if you have your question, just write it down so you don't forget your question. At the end, we will come back with this question. My name is Benedict Mundele Kuvuna. I come from one of the richest countries in the world, Democratic Republic of Congo. And I work to create a new generation of leader and entrepreneurship in Congo through mentorship, empowerment, and equipping youth to become the leader of change. I come and I will be your moderator today. So now help me to welcome Mr. Eliseu Chavez, Chief of Staff, UN Youth Officer, for the introductory remark.
Thank you so much, Moderator Benedict Mundele. I hope the pronunciation is accurate.
Right.
Minister from Madagascar, His Excellency Abdullah Marson Mustafa. I hope the pronunciation is also okay. And I'm happy to also see Soy representing UNFPA. And since I know her for many years, I think the pronunciation is okay too. Colleagues, dear friends and ministers, youth authorities, CSO, colleagues, such a pleasure to be with you today. I only have 4 minutes, but I promise just to use maximum 5. No, just 4 minutes. The moderator. So I'm the Chief of Staff of the United Nations Youth Office. As most of you know, it's a new established office by the General Assembly, meaning member states created us. We are very young in that regard. The resolution from 2022, and now we are consolidated as an office. I used to say, joining the office like 6 months ago, after with more than 20 years with the UN. It's a small office, but very strong because of the team, because of the mandate and the passion that many of you are always transpiring through our office. So our job, our role as the office is first to coordinate youth affairs across the entire UN system, which is not a simple job, and spearhead efforts to advance meaningful youth participation. And what does it mean? Ensuring that we use existing spaces and whenever possible, we create new spaces to enable young people to participate in policy shaping, policy building, and decision making. So our mission is not easy, but it's noble and exciting one, I can tell you. And this is why I'm honored to be with you today on the side event on the lessons from the meta-synthesis of the United Nations evaluation to advance the youth strategy, Youth 2030. I know the name is maybe complicated for some outside our circle, the meta synthesis, but we are always challenged the UN and partners to demonstrate results. So this is what it is about. So as you know, the youth strategy, the UN youth strategy was launched by the Secretary General in 2018. And the aim is to first address the needs, build the agency, advance the rights of young people in all their diversity around the world. Second, ensure young people's meaningful engagement and participation in the implementation, review, follow up to the 2030 agenda, as well as different global agendas and frameworks. So it's basically to position youth affairs within the broader platforms of the multilateral system and facilitate coherent and holistic efforts in addressing youth-related issues across the UN system. So this is really a piece that brings us all together as the UN. Naturally, our office, the Youth Office, serves as the Secretariat of Youth 2030. Unlike, of course, other big players in the system, we still have that role as coordinating since 2022 the whole UN system around youth issues. 66 years after the launch, much progress, I think we can say, has been achieved on all these fronts. We have more than 60 UN entities that are part of the strategy, 132 UN country teams participating in the strategy implementation. However, we have to acknowledge that to truly achieve the strategy's goal, and much acceleration is needed at all levels by all of us. And it requires knowing what works and what doesn't work so that we can collectively adapt, improve our the youth policies, both in terms of design, implementation, based on concrete knowledge and evidence. For many people, it may be sounding as a boring conversation, but we are challenged all the time to demonstrate results. So this is why this piece is so important. And this is why today's discussion is so critical in the middle of the big ECOSOC Youth Forum this year. So the report that will be launched shortly seeks to answer a critical question: what really works to amplify the rights and voices of youth in education and employment? Today, with 258 million children and adolescents out of school globally, and more than 1 in 5 young people not in education, employment, or training, answering this question is one of the most important questions of our time when we talk about the youth agenda. And not only the youth agenda, it impacts the societies across the globe and us as a global society. So I take this opportunity to particularly congratulate UNFPA and its independent evaluation office, and UNICEF and its evaluation office for co-leading this important work, and commend all the partners involved. So we look forward to hearing some of the findings of the meta-synthesis analysis and important conversations we have during the course of the session today. So on behalf of the United Nations Youth Office, we look forward to working together to put these recommendations into action, using Youth 2030 as a vehicle to accelerate the SDG implementation with and for youth at all levels. So having said that, I think I stick to my time, but really an honor to be with all of you and engage into the conversation. I mean, again, I'm going to be repetitive, but meta evaluation like this is critical for us to have the findings, the messages to do the proper advocacy and translate those into concrete action. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez, for the introduction. And I will also note that when we have to speak a little bit louder because there is the translator there, so they can capture what we are saying. Thank you so much for the introduction.
Do I have to repeat everything?
No. Now I have the honor to present His Excellency Mr. Abdoulaye Marson Mustafa, Minister of Youth and Sport of Madagascar, for the keynote address.
Donc, c'est pas encore compté sur mes 7 minutes. Hein.
Non, ça va. Là,
c'est juste une introduction.
Yeah, c'est l'introduction.
Just a joking. Yes, hello everybody. It's a pleasure for us to be here with you. And I think that it's something that's make a big value and a huge difference from the day that I took the responsibility in the position as the Minister of Youth and Sport of Madagascar. This is the second time that Madagascar Island are present here in such a huge and important event as ECOSOC Forum of Youth meeting. And I came not alone, like in last September, during the event of Summit l'Avenir. I came with the 6 young Malagasy from the 6th region of the country. And this time I came with 2 of them from the 2 sides of the country of the island, Madagascar. It's very important that we try and we show the example to our young generation, the next generation, how things should be, and how it's very important for me to give them the responsibility to be part of this, because this future is not only their future or our future, but it's for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, His Excellency, for the wonderful work that you are doing, and we are very honored to have you here. I would also like to introduce the next speaker, Mrs. Seul. I hope I say well the name. Soil Lutz
Soyo.
Soyo. Yeah, I got the name. The deputy director program division of UNFPA for the opening remark.
Thank you, Benedict. At the outset, allow me to convey sincere apologies on behalf of our Deputy Executive Director Program, Ms. Diana Keida, who was called in an urgent matter, and therefore I will be reading her opening remarks on her behalf. Your Excellency, Abdullah Marsan Mustafa, Minister of Youth and Sports of Madagascar, Your Excellencies, Ministers, Moderator, distinguished panelists, dear young people, civil society, UN colleagues. UNFPA is pleased to co-host this side event alongside UNDP, UNESCO, UNICEF, UN Youth Office, and Generation Unlimited. Your presence here is a testament to your commitment to youth development. Today, there are 1.2 billion young people aged 15 to 24 years, accounting for 16% of the global population. This number of youth is projected to grow by 7% to nearly 1.3 billion by 2030. It's 1.2 billion of possibilities for change and transformation. According to UNESCO, over 250 million children and youth are still not in school worldwide. 128 million boys are out of school, showing disengagement from education, and 122 million girls are out of school today. In addition, adolescent girls aged 15 to 19 are more likely to not be in education, employment, or training than their male peers. As of 2023, 64.9 million young people aged 15 to 24 were unemployed worldwide. 20% of youth is not in employment, education, and training, of which 2 out of 3 are young women. The data shows that we need to take evidence-based action to ensure that young people can have the capabilities and skills to safely transition from learning to earning in a rapidly changing world. In this context, on behalf of UNFPA Deputy Executive Director, allow me to officially launch the report, What Works to Amplify the Rights and Voices of Youth in Education and Employment, Lessons from the Method Synthesis of United Nations Evaluations to Advance the United Nations Youth Strategy. The report was co-led by our own UNFPA Independent Evaluation Office and the UNICEF Evaluation Office, together with the Eval Youth Global Network, United Nations Youth Office, and 7 other UN agencies and youth-led groups. Part of package of evidence on youth, this third evidence synthesis marks a critical milestone in our collective progress under Youth 2030, focusing on 2 priority areas that shape young people's future: quality education and economic empowerment through decent work. Drawing on nearly 300 evaluation reports, the evidence tells a compelling story of what works, what doesn't work, and what needs to change and how. These lessons speak directly to our mandate, realizing rights and choices for all, especially for those most often excluded, including adolescent girls and young women, LGBTQI+ youth, and young persons with disabilities. The evidence from this report is clear. When youth are at the center, not only as participants, but as partners, leaders, and decision makers, it leads to transformative change. This requires involving youth in all stages of program design, implementation, and evaluation, and embedding their voices in accountability processes to shape the decisions and policies that impact their futures. This report provides evidence-based solutions to inform youth programming and decision-making, a must-read for governments, UN agencies, civil society, the private sector, and most importantly, young people themselves. Today's panel discussion will build on the lessons and themes that emerged from the evidence synthesis report to draw connections, share experiences, and explore how we can turn evidence into action. As we look into the future, let us move boldly from evidence to action to ensure the right to education and decent work for every young person everywhere. Using evidence and lessons learned to bolster our engagement with youth keeps all of us, including the United Nations system, agile and adaptive. As we continue efforts jointly with young people to build a more resilient, safer, and more inclusive world. I invite all of us, governments, multilateral institutions, civil society, and the private sector to keep up the lessons of this evidence synthesis and translate them into transformative programs that reach youth who are the furthest behind. Let's address, as an international community, the real anxieties and worries of young people today about their job opportunities, security, and social mobility, while making smart investments to address discrimination and violence and close the gender and age gaps. The evidence presented today gives us a clear pathway to push forward together. Let us invest in the design and delivery of programs that equip young people with essential skills and education, including comprehensive sexuality education, to ensure they will have control of their bodies and lives for a future with better opportunities, rights, and choices. I thank you, unquote.
Remark. Now it's time, following those insights opening remark, it's now my distinct pleasure to announce we are officially launching the interagency reports. What work to amplify the rights of and youth, the right and voice of youth in education and employment. Lesson from the meta-synthesis of United Nations evaluation to advance the United Nations youth strategies. So you have the QR code there. You can just scan the QR code, and those online, you can use the link, use the QR code to scan your reports. So I will give the floor to Tammy and Karam. They will do the brief presentation of the reports and then come out with what the highlights of the reports.
Thank you, Benedict. Thank you for the kind introduction, and thank you to our distinguished panel for joining us today, and all the participants here in person and online. We're really happy to have you here. On behalf of the co-chairs with UNFPA and UNICEF, we are delighted to present officially this report. As you can see, this is the third report in a series of reports that we have been doing on meta-synthesis analysis on the youth strategy, the UN youth strategy. I would like to acknowledge first, in addition to the co-chairs, the technical leads, UNESCO and ILO, and all the partners that were part of this exercise: Eval Youth Global Network, Generation Unlimited, Global Partnerships for Education Youth Leaders, IOM, OHCHR, UNDP, and finally the United Nations Youth Office. This third exercise largely focuses on, similar to the previous ones, on capturing lessons learned around the proven strategies, effective approaches, and challenges common to UN youth implementations, focusing largely on the UN strategy priorities. In this specific case, priorities 2 and 3 that are, as mentioned already, quality education and economic empowerment through decent work. The main objectives of this specific meta-synthesis were to identify common themes and patterns, as well as evidence gaps in areas for improvement for the UN work. The second objective was to draw some insights, recognizing diversity across implementations, and to generate lessons learned. If you can move to the next slide. The next one. Thank you, Benedict. This exercise was, as you can see, highly participatory and consultative, including the 11 UN agencies that supported both the identification and validation of the sample of evaluations that we draw from information. There were over close to 300 evaluation reports. And this came from an initial full sample of 1,300 evaluations. We use an innovative approach of AI supported with human on the loop. So we basically use thematic experts to help us guide the selection of the evaluations, as well as a systematic mapping of all the elements that constituted the information to develop this meta-synthesis. We identified common barriers, enabling factors, and focus on three main topics: youth, formal education, skills and employability and training, and decent employment and entrepreneurship. I know that some participants are very interested in that topic. We invite you to read the report to learn more also about the experience that we have using AI supported human on the loop approaches and the ethical considerations behind it. And now I would like to give the floor to Karen, who will be presenting the lessons learned and interesting reflections from the road. Great, thank you.
Thanks so much, Tammy. So in this report, we have 4 overarching key lessons that emerge across UN interventions. And as you can see, they're not necessarily anything new, but they do reinforce that the UN and its partners are implementing proven strategies and good practice, reinforcing that what we do is informed by what we know works. So one of the clearest lessons is that targeted interventions, especially for girls and young women, are effective in reducing disparities in education and employment. And this exercise actually highlighted there needs to be more of a focus to understand and scale effective strategies around youth in child labor, those in hazardous and informal work, as ex-combatants, and youth in conflict settings. This exercise also highlighted lesson 2, which is around cross-sector collaboration and holistic approaches to create just more comprehensive support systems for young people by addressing not only their educational needs, but of course their health, social and economic needs. And the third lesson underscores that interventions must be tailored to reflect local realities. And what this means really is engaging with communities, listening to their needs, co-designing solutions rooted in their values and traditions. And the last lesson is around a balanced approach that combines direct support to young people to address their immediate and urgent needs, as well as upstream strategies such as policy, advocacy support, institutional capacity building to create an enabling ecosystem for young people. This synthesis also helped us identify a few areas for a focus for our future efforts. The first takeaway is linked to the first lesson about tailoring interventions to ensure flexibility and basically to adapt and respond to the social, economic, cultural, and environmental contexts. The evaluations in this exercise actually highlighted key challenges, several key challenges faced by youth, including inadequate education systems and curricula, low standards of decent employment, the rapid digital transformation in market economies, and the threats of climate change. And by adapting our interventions to these realities, we can ensure that the programs are responsive to both the current and emerging challenges. Another key takeaway from this synthesis is the need for consistent and coherent understanding of leaving no one behind, the principle of leaving no one behind as it applies to young people. So nearly half of the evaluations reviewed targeted disadvantaged youth, but this term is often left undefined or interpreted in different ways across agencies. So the question remains of who exactly is disadvantaged and what exactly are their specific needs. So this really is a call for us to invest more in robust monitoring and evaluation systems to include clear, specific, leaving no one behind indicators, and ensuring that data is disaggregated so we really capture the diverse experiences and needs of youth. The third takeaway links back to the second lesson on multi-sectoral interventions. And here the report reinforces that governments really can set the stage by establishing favorable environments for youth employment, education, and entrepreneurship, but their efforts must be complemented by strategic partnerships, including the involvement of the private sector that can bring innovation, investment in job creation, as well as civil society organizations, and of course, youth-led organizations who are critical partners in ensuring that the interventions are not only designed for young people, but co-created with them. And finally, the last point, youth development, of course, should be youth-led. Young people are already leading in digital innovation, green economies, green transitions, and social entrepreneurship. And in this exercise, the evaluations actually indicated a relative lack of focus on interventions in these areas. So what does this mean? This suggests that there are opportunities to strengthen investment in digital literacy and foundational skills, expand our programming related to green transition and digital economies, and finally enhance our data collection to better capture youth-led innovation and impact. So I will stop there and give the floor back to the moderator to open the panel discussion.
So thank you so much, Tammy and Karen, for the brief presentation. And now we will move to our panel. We have just heard key insight from the meta-synthesis reports, which bring together evidence across the UN system on youth-focused intervention. So the discussion will build on four lessons. For breaking barrier in education and employment. Second, turning local solution into scalable opportunities. Third, connecting the dots, holistic cross-sector collaboration. And the fourth, empowering youth through policy and system change. So the first this section will be around breaking barrier in education and employment, relate to lesson 1 synthesis report. Understand young people face a range of intersecting challenge, particularly youth group have more vulnerabilities. Focus on the discussion, youth-led solution, and target tailored intervention to break barrier in education and employability. So let me introduce our panelists. Our first panelist is the co-founder of Project Bahala and Generation 17 young leader Saumwa Dabriwal. I hope I say it well. The second panelist will be Lance Civil, founder and director of Arts IT ANC co-chair of AI Digital Learning and Transformation UNESCO SDG 4 Youth and Student Network. And our third panelist will be the co-founder of Academia del Oceano and Generation 17 young leader Jose Francisco Ochea.
That's me.
Yeah, thank you. So my first question will go to Saumwa. Your organization Project Bahala, right, has addressed unique barrier in education and employability faced by specific youth groups such as girls, young women, and by addressing their menstrual health needs. How do you ensure that tailored interventions are not just short-term fix, but sustainable long-term opportunity that empower young people?
Oh, thank you. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Soumya Dabriwal. I co-founded an organization called Project Bala 8 years ago. Bala means a young girl in Hindi. So the premise of the organization was to keep young girls in school and young women in jobs, because almost 1 out of 4 women drop out of school at the onset of their menstrual cycles, and 33% women in India actually miss work because of their period. So menstrual health and hygiene can seem like a health need, but it has this huge repercussion on economic as well as education opportunities for young women and girls. So this question about how can we have interventions which are long-term and not short-term is actually an existential question for us as an organization. We don't have a choice. We need to build solutions that can stay. So we've been led by 4 core principles when we're designing our solutions on the ground. The first one is a transfer of knowledge versus just delivery. So we work on creating agency instead of impacting beneficiaries. So all the work that we do is about how can we take all of the knowledge that we have been able to garner and transfer it into the communities. So we identify young champions, we call them the Bala bosses. They go through our curriculums and they train themselves to become sexual and reproductive health and rights advocates for their community. Second, we onboard women entrepreneurs who take on the onus of actually selling menstrual health and hygiene products within their community, as well as disseminating knowledge and information. So all of our models is about creating self-sustainability instead of dependency on us or any other agency for that matter. The second thing that we've done is we've created products that are long-term. So we don't work with any products that are one-time use. Everything that we have lasts for 2 to 5 years at the least, which means that we're not band-aiding the problem of infrastructural access to products. We're trying to give a long-term sustainable solution to the communities. And these are sold by the women and girls themselves. So again, we've tried to create a 360-degree model where the products can reach the community via the women and can stay for a very long time. The third thing is that a lot of these menstrual health and hygiene issues are not just about women. And they're not just enforced by women. A lot of restrictions, for example, of entering holy spaces or kitchens and so on still exist in a lot of Asian and even Latin American countries. And it stems not just by women and girls, but the entire ecosystem. So for long-term shift, we need to enable the entire ecosystem to understand what is needed for young women and girls. So we loop in men and boys, we loop in authorities, we loop in local influencers who can play a role in actually enabling that ecosystem for women and girls. And lastly, I think something that is very underrated for a lot of young organizations, just data, data, data. So we try to build so much evidence on what's working, how it's working, where it's working, what are the intersectionalities, and just putting it out there. Once you have data backing your solutions, you find the right stakeholders in the right rooms to actually help you scale the work that you're doing. So I think that's from me about building longer term solutions to a problem such as not being able to access opportunities because of sexual and reproductive health and rights.
Yeah. We have been doing on ground. So my second question will go to Len Civil. Yeah, as the co-chair for UNESCO Youth and Student Network on AI and digital learning, you are at the forefront of discussion on the intersection of technology and education. Given your experience, how do you see digital education being leveraged to not only make learning more accessible, particularly in remote and underserved area, but also equipping young people with skills needed to thrive in the accessible digital world?
Hey everyone, thank you. So my name is Len Civil. I'm from IT and I'm a member of the SDG4 Youth and Student Network, but also the co-chair for AI and digital transformation. As someone from IT where technology, digital access is really, really limited, where we are at, I would say, at the end of the bus when it comes to innovation, to access to technology. Being the co-chair at the UNESCO network and representing not only the country, but the youth, have been a really big opportunity for me. So as the co-chair of the UNESCO network, I've seen firsthand how digital education can be a game changer, not just in terms of large access, but in reshaping what it means to be prepared for the future. In many underserved communities, especially in places like my home country, Haiti, I work in traditional education system where I've seen the struggle they are facing, whether it is in infrastructure, teacher shortage, or outdated materials. So digital education can absolutely increase access, especially in remote and underserved communities. But for many marginalized youth, the barrier isn't just about the access, but mostly inclusion. When we are giving access to a certain community, are we really inclusive with this access? Now I'm talking about young women, girls, and even further communities. If I take example in Haiti, like we mostly concentrate our intervention in the capital, and we forget about the other communities that we call the province, where there's mostly a lot more people needed access to this innovation and digital education. For example, with arts, we are piloting step-by-step programming needed to bring digital tools into underserved school, integrate youth-led learning, and train young people not just on how to use technology, but how to create with it, question it, and lead with it. This small community center initiative are already showing promise, but truly scale, the truly thing we need is global commitment. So when we give this access to this community, do they actually know how to use them in their favor to create this change that they are needed, but also the morality behind it. And now I will talk about AI, which is really a powerful tool, but can be really destroying if we don't have the moral on how to properly use that tool. So on the other hand, access alone is not enough. What we do with the access matter even more. So digital education must also be about building agency and future readiness. We are talking about digital literacy, critical thinking, creativity, and ethical engagement with AI and tech. Digital education must go beyond technical skill. So I'm talking about communication, adaptability, empathy and ethics, and problem solving and resilience. To the network, we advocate for curricula that go toward these soft skills that include the digital rights, data protection, and also active participant in the tech-driven society. So what works really when we are talking about the youth community, when you're talking about the marginalized cities, it's how we youth are co-creator of the solution using these digital tools that we give them. So when we are involving in the design of platform, policy-making conversation, and peer-led digital learning initiative, the impact is real and sustainable because it's come from us knowing what we actually need, how we can actually use these tools, and especially be part of the digital learning system. That's what I've been working on through both global advocacy and community-based initiative, making sure the digital revolution in education isn't just inclusive, but led by those it aims to serve, the young people. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this amazing message. So we have the last question for Jose Francisco. As co-founder of Academia del Océano, a NetTech company that bridges technology, education, and sustainability, you can reshape learning. Can you share your experience from Academia del Océano, how digital education platform can be tailored for diverse learning needs and the tangible impacts as aid on learn, especially those facing significant barrier for education? What lesson have you learned from these experiences?
Thank you for your questions. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jose Francisco Ochoa, and I am from Ecuador. Academia del Océano is the first educational oceanic center in my country. Our mission is to empower the next generation of oceanic advocates in Latin America. Academia del Océano, we offer our educational resources at a low cost. And we are doing this because our target audience includes university students and young professionals who often face financial accessibility. And this is a problem that happens not only at the Global South, it's widespread. And we provide our students with certifications from top universities, like the Catholic University of my country, and also from global institutions. And we are doing this because it helps strengthen their academic and professional profiles. Our content is practical and is focused on ocean literacy and is delivered in Spanish.
Sorry, can you try to speak louder?
Okay. More. And is delivered in Spanish, in my mother tongue. And we are doing this because there is a gap in the creation of educational resources in Spanish. And it's a problem, especially in Ecuador. And we are doing it with real examples from my country and in Latin America in general. So we are trying it to make it relevant, inclusive, and accessible. Just like you said, Karen, that we need to make it with flexibility. Also, from learners from diverse backgrounds. One lesson that I want to share with you is that partnerships are everything. It's important that when we are doing a project or when we are entrepreneurs, we need to work in collaboration. We need to work with a foundation, with local communities, with educators, with the private sectors, with NGOs, and with universities. We need to work in partnerships. It's very important because digital education not only breaks barriers, it's important to design it with empathy, with local relevance, and again, like you said it in the report, with flexibility. We need to make it simple. Thank you.
So thank you so much for all our panelists for the amazing message that you have been saying for the lesson one, as we can understand that it's very important not just to teach young people about digital, but make them in the middle of the solution. I just have a highlight of experience for Kuvuna Foundation where I work. So every year we organize a youth hackathon, and there is a year that we organize a youth hackathon on climate, and we gave youth challenges that they were supposed to bring solution, and we were amazed to see all of them came out with digital solution. And then you see the way where you can use technology or digital to bring amazing solution for the community. And this is very important for youth to be in the middle of the solution. So now we can go to the next session. We will move to the next segments. The third, the solution, lesson 3, adapting education program to local context and align with the labor maker needs. So here we will have 3 panelists. We have Jose that we present already. We have Eugenia Godet, Director, National Institution of Youth of Uruguay. I think she's there, yeah. Yeah, we have both of them. So the first question. Sorry. Yeah, I was trying to write the name. So sorry for that. And the third person will be the General Ultimate Deputy Director Program, Miss Yumali Shakar, right? Did I say it right?
It's Urmila.
Urmila.
Much easier.
So the first question will go for Mrs. Urmila Shakar.
Perfect.
Yeah, see, I say well. In many regions, education systems are not aligned with the realities of the local labor market. How can we create strong partnership between education and local industry to equip youth with skills required for employment? What step can Generation Ultimate its partner take to bridge the gap between education and need of employees?
Yeah, thanks so much. Great question. Really honored to be here and to be a co-organizer and with the UN family, with all the distinguished panelists here and especially our young leaders. And I'm already learning a lot and excited about the report launch. So what we see around the world in many countries around the world is we all know there's a mismatch between what young people are skilled and what they aspire for and what private sector and employers need. The International Labor Organization estimates that 2 out of every 3 young workers in lower middle income countries hold qualifications that are just not aligned with their jobs, which that in turn leads to low retention, weak productivity, and most importantly, a lack of fulfillment at work, just to complement all the really great data that was presented just before from the previous speakers. So there really remains an urgent need to make education curriculum and systems more relevant to local labor market needs, as well as enable the kind of complementary learning pathways that impart the transferable skills that will enable young people to adapt, to thrive, to a dynamic world of work that we're hearing faces technologic, you can call it disruption or innovation, and global climate change. And there are really many steps that can be taken, and some of it's in the report that looks at creating stronger partnerships between education and local industry to reduce this skills mismatch and promote youth employability. And they can include simple things like just having private sector input into the curriculum. Project-based and experiential learning is super critical. Mentorship, workplace-based learning or apprenticeship, career guidance, career fairs, career exploration. So as a public-private youth partnership, we at Generation Unlimited or Gen U is designed to really convene stakeholders that share this common agenda of driving youth development, recognizing these gaps. And several countries in our network, and we have a geographical footprint now in over 90 countries worldwide, anchored in UNICEF, but working very closely with all these organizations around the table, convening multiple ministries and across private sector, academia, civil society, and young people themselves, and really appreciated what you had to say, that it's so important because young people will have the firsthand knowledge of the problems, but also the solutions and the innovations. And it's so important to co-create together any kind of change. So just to list a few examples in India, the Yuva, meaning youth power in Hindi, Generation Unlimited, is convening Ministry of Education, Ministry of Labor and Employment, the Ministry of Rural Development and Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, alongside private sector players. And they range from national private sector to Capgemini, to Microsoft, Accenture. I mean, you're probably familiar with these, the Children's Investment Fund, all kinds of organizations in an effort to look at those solutions that help young people's learning, skilling, and transition to the workforce seamlessly, and looking at models that can be scaled. In fact, as we speak, one example is Didi Dukan, which is leading to opportunities at a large scale for self-employment, which has taken a philanthropy to invest in its startup, but looking at ministry to scale and working with private sector for digital skills content. We have a global solution, the Passport to Earning, which is scaled up in India and 8 countries around the world, which is preparing young people for a digitally powered and rapidly changing world of work to advance these kinds of, as a complementary learning pathway to what a young person learns in school. And just in the last few years, there's something like 4.3 million young people that have completed courses in certificates in digital, in financial literacy and employability skills through partnerships and strong partnerships with the education system and youth ministries. And in Brazil, the 1 Million Opportunities, the UNIO program, is a really innovative program that's reaching out specifically to vulnerable youth. And I think it's really important because they face certain disadvantages, as we know, in the labor market. And they have worked very closely across the country with several hundreds of private sector companies. And in the last few years have managed to get young people with 500,000 young people with concrete job opportunities. And this has also been done in partnership with the UN, across the UN family. and really shows a medium for government private sector engagement to ensure that young people are really keeping up with the system. And in Bangladesh, finally, there's a really, really innovative model looking at reaching in school and out of school children and looking at, you mentioned the problems of young people not in education training or employment by partnering with several ministries and local private sector and looking at alternative learning pathways that focus on vocational training that are in high demand with the community from the local private sector. The Girls Education Skills Partnership is working to sensitize men and boys in the community so that often these are single and young mothers that have a second chance at skills training, at workplace-based learning, and through AI and digital enablers, we're looking at to reach millions of these young women across Bangladesh and around the world with new opportunities of market-relevant training and apprenticeship. So just finally to say that these models work to say that I'd like to emphasize that it's important not to treat education and employment as separate tracks. I think what's important to emphasize co-creation with the employers, with the private sector, embed soft and technical skills along the learning pathway, and facilitate real-world application through internships, entrepreneurship, and job platforms, where industries and private sector are not just consulted, but they're actually part of the journey in curriculum reform, where young people are not just recipients, actually co-designers, and where AI and digital platforms are used to sustain and scale these efforts. So bridging the gap isn't just about teaching the right skills, as we read in the report, it's about building the right systems, collaborative, data-informed, and future-facing that allow young people to continuously adapt and thrive.
Yeah, thank you so much. Something that captured me, like we don't have to separate education and employability, so we have to put it together so we can make it possible. So the second question, I will come back to Jose Francisco. With the rise of the gig economy and digital work, how can educational systems shift to equip youth not only for traditional employment, but also for entrepreneurial and self-employment opportunity? What key skills should be prioritized to ensure youth are ready for alternative career paths?
Thank you again. The job market is changing, as everybody knows. Traditional jobs are not the only option anymore. Many youth are not turning it into freelancing, into entrepreneurships, into gig work, as you mentioned. Educational systems must adapt to this new reality. And now we need to focus on practical, on real world applications. For instance, in my edtech company, we teach our students digital skills like generative artificial intelligence for the environmental scientists, like to develop images to create mangroves, an image of a mangrove, or to develop an idea for a course of coral reefs, is an example. Also, how to manage conservation projects and to work independently. That is very important nowadays. We are doing this to focus on key skills and to develop in our students alternatives career paths. Nowadays, in the influencer era, in the personal branding era, networking is extremely important. I have met incredible persons on LinkedIn. Is an incredible tool, and of course the online presence is important as well. So from my own experience, if we want youth to succeed in this world, in this new economy, we need to teach them how to create their own path. Just like you mentioned, we need to teach them how to be job seekers. Job creators, not job seekers. It's very important. We need to teach them how to develop their own path, not just to follow existing ones. Also, we need to teach them that education, we need to give them just not the skills, we need to provide them with confidence. It's very important. And we are doing that with our project. One important data is that 65% of our students are women, and we are empowering them to be local leaders, to be leaders in their communities, and also to be local reference in the environmental sector in my country, and to be ocean advocates in Ecuador. Thank you.
We need not just give them skills, but confidence as well. So we will finish this panel with Eugenia Godoy. So the director Godoy, given the evolving labor market and the growing demand for the new skill, how can education system meet today's needs, but also adapt for the future ready workforce? What is the experience in Uruguay?
Hola, yo no hablo inglés, así que les van a hacer la traducción acá.
Hi, we are apologize that director didn't know there was no interpreters in the room, so I'm from the German mission of Uruguay, and if it's okay with the organization, I'm gonna help her.
Can you just speak louder?
Okay. We will speak a bit louder. Okay. But should I repeat?
No,
Okay. Siendo que nos encontramos ante un mundo que está planteando muchas incertidumbres y el mundo del trabajo ha cambiado radicalmente a como se planteaba hace unos años.
There is no doubt that we find ourselves facing a world with many uncertainties, and the labor market has radically changed along the years.
Los avances tecnológicos están planteando amenazas al mismo tiempo que nuevos desafíos para el desarrollo de los países, y en ese sentido la educación es un actor clave.
Technological advances pose threats, but also new challenges for the development of countries, and in this sense, education is a key player.
En países como Uruguay, en estos últimos 20 años, el ingreso a la universidad ha crecido exponencialmente, pero como dice Pepe Mujica, en el mundo de hoy eso no se agota ahí. Los universitarios probablemente sean parte de la clase obrera del futuro.
In countries like Uruguay, university enrollment has grown exponentially over the past 20 years, but as Pepe Mujica says, it doesn't end there. University graduates will likely be part of the working class of the world to come.
Me parece importante plantear que más allá de las urgencias que presenta el hoy, debemos concentrarnos en habilidades que sirvan para el desarrollo del mañana y asegurar educación de calidad en todos los niveles.
I think it's important to emphasize that beyond the urgent needs of today, we must focus on skills that will serve tomorrow's development and ensure quality education at all levels.
Ahora quiero comentar 3 experiencias concretas de Uruguay en lo que respecta al vínculo entre el trabajo y estudio, que al menos son novedosas y que han planteado buenos resultados.
Now I want to comment on some experiences from Uruguay regarding the link between work and study, which are at the very least innovative and have proved to have positive results.
Ante la identificación de problemas como el desempleo juvenil, precariedad laboral en los y las jóvenes y la desafiliación educativa, surge un programa titulado Yo Estudio y Trabajo.
Considering problems such as youth unemployment, job insecurity among young people, and disenrollment from school, a program entitled I Work and Study emerged.
Enfocado a jóvenes de entre 16 y 20 años que se encuentran cursando en educaciones educativas, donde sus componentes centrales son una beca laboral, talleres de orientación educativa laboral y acompañamiento en sus distintas trayectorias educativas.
Aimed at young people between the ages of 16 and 20 who are enrolled in educational programs. The program's core components include a job scholarship, career guidance workshops, and support throughout their educational journey.
Este programa fue clave para que muchísimos jóvenes tuvieran su primera experiencia laboral de calidad, siendo clave dado que esto marca sus trayectorias laborales de por vida. Asimismo, colaboró en la obtención de trabajos de calidad, formalidad, ingresos, derechos y aportó a la finalización de ciclos educativos.
This program was instrumental in providing many young people with the first formal work experience, which is crucial given that it shaped their career path for life. It also helped them secure quality jobs and contributed to their educational completion.
Por otro lado, atendiendo a la necesidad de mirar el mercado laboral del futuro, pero atendiendo a la particularidad territorial en clave de cuál es el desarrollo productivo de cada país y dentro del mismo con sus diversos territorios, surge la UTEC.
On the other hand, addressing the need to look at the labor market on the future of the future while taking into account the territorial specificity based on the productive development of each country and within it, with its diverse territory and their particularities, the technological university emerged.
La Universidad Tecnológica, con sedes en el interior del país, surge con la finalidad de plantear carreras novedosas que colaboren con el desarrollo productivo y que se piense en pos de potenciar las habilidades nacionales, asegurando soberanía.
The Technological University, with campuses throughout the country, was created with the aim of proposing innovative programs that contribute to productive development and are designed to enhance national skills while ensuring sovereignty.
Por último, contamos con un Instituto Nacional de Empleo y Formación Profesional, con una gobernanza tripartita, Poder Ejecutivo, Trabajadores y Cámara Empresarial, que busca otorgar cursos que colaboren a conseguir empleos de calidad.
Finally, we have a National Institute for Employment and Vocational Training with tripartite governance. The executive branch, which is in the hand of the Ministry of Labor and Education, the workers, and the Chamber of Commerce. This institute seeks to provide courses and contributes to obtaining quality jobs.
Sin duda, los desafíos son muchísimos, pero urge pensar en el binomio educación-trabajo para garantizar empleos de calidad que colaboren con la soberanía y desarrollo de cada país y que se piense en clave de formar con habilidades a las y los jóvenes sin caer en la precariedad.
Undoubtedly, the challenges are many, but it is urgent to consider the education-work relationship to guarantee quality jobs that contribute to the sovereignty and development of each country, and to focus on training young people with skills.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So now we will shift to the third segment, connecting the dots, holistic approach, cross-sector collaboration. Not just technical skill development, but also skill and support structure. We have here three panelists. Two of them I already present them. And the first one is Her Excellency Rose Sochets, Secretary General of the Secretarial General of National Youth Development Council, Director General of Moel Combadia. Thank you so much. And I will start my question with Her Excellencies. In today's rapid changing world, traditional educational pathway may no longer be enough to prepare young people for future job markets. Your Excellency, your opinion, how can we ensure that young people are not only gaining technical skill, but also developing essential soft skill that will enable them to thrive in diverse environments? How do we integrate these into educational system?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ministers, dignitary, ladies and gentlemen. It's a Cambodian greeting way. And for your information, this is just the second day of our Cambodian New Year. So me and my Cambodian delegates are wearing our traditional dress made from silk. But you know, it's quite cold for us to walk outside. So it's very good for me, I mean, with the delegate to be here with our traditional dress. Thank you very much. And in Cambodia, we are celebrating the New Year for 3 days, including yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So I spend my New Year here with all of you.
Happy New Year.
So to answer your questions, in Cambodia, ensuring access to quality educations, especially in remote areas, require adapting our programs to local context. We have introduced mobile educations, units, and digital learning platform where every lesson from grade 1 to grade 12 is available online to reach undeserved youth, particularly in rural and remote areas. These tools allow us to provide education where infrastructures is lacking, making learning more accessible. Additionally, we have integrated technical and vocational education and training into local community, ensuring that youth are required with skills that directly align with the local labor markets. Extracurriculum activities are compulsory and encouraged by the government to equip youth with the 21st century skills and volunteering mindsets. Cambodia prioritized the development of youth to be equipped with the 21st century skill, cope with the recommendation by our Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Education, Youth and Sport, that you shall have knowledge, skill, characters, and also health. The Ministry of Education, Youth and Sport has contributed highly to realize SDGs, particularly quality education, SDG 4, and promoting youth participation. With that, Ministry of Education, Youth and Sport has organized a numerous of programs and activities, programs like National Youth Debates, STEM competition, Volunteer for My Community, Business Plan Contest, Summer Youth Camp, to name a few. We aim to equip youth with the 21st century skills, including the learning and innovation skills, digital literacy and life skill. Last but not least is life and career skills. Further than that, in Cambodia, we integrate soft skill into our education curricula. We empower teacher to model and teach soft skill. We encourage young people to many community-based projects so that youth can not just learn, but they really put their hand into it. So ladies and gentlemen, this is just to put Cambodia into a snapshot to answer your question. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much that young people can come out with the camp, all those activities, so they can be in the sector in collaboration on that. So the second question, I will come back to Eugenia. Beyond skill, young people also need strong support system to succeed. How can government, non-profit, and private sector actor create comprehensive support system that provide young people not only with skills and education, but also with mentorship, mental health resource, and financial support? What role community-led approach play in building this ecosystem of supports?
Pensar en sistemas integrales que acompañen las organizaciones sin fines de lucro, actores del sector privado y gobiernos es clave para generar un sentido común y de compromiso con el desarrollo de habilidades en el laboral y el educativo. Developing comprehensive systems that support non-profit organizations, private sectors, and government is key to generate a shared sense of commitment to developing skills in the workplace and education. Desde Uruguay se cuenta con un programa, Progresa, llevado adelante por estudiantes de la Universidad de la República, que se trata de acompañamiento de tutoría entre pares. Una experiencia con un recorrido de más de 15 años, donde no en clave de mentoría, pero sin sistemas de apoyo, con el agregado de ser entre pares, se acompañan trayectorias educativas y de inclusión laboral. Uruguay has a program called Progresa, which is like Progress, run by students from the University of the Republic. This program, which offers peer-to-peer mentoring, spans more than 15 years. It provides support for educational and career guidance, not through mentoring, but through peer-to-peer support systems. En lo que refiere con salud mental, el Instituto Nacional de la Juventud, en colaboración con UNICEF, cuenta con dispositivos novedosos y pioneros en América Latina. Se trata de 7 centros territoriales pensados para la prevención y atención de casos de salud mental con un enfoque de garantizar el bienestar integral. Regarding mental health, the National Youth Institute is in collaboration with UNICEF has innovative and pioneering programs in Latin America. There are 7 regional centers designed to prevent and treat mental health issues with a focus on ensuring comprehensive well-being. En cuanto al apoyo financiero, se cuenta con un robusto sistema de becas, tanto del gobierno como de la universidad. En lo que refiere a las becas del gobierno, atendiendo la necesidad de acompañar con recursos financieros las trayectorias de los jóvenes, se plantea duplicar la cobertura de las mismas. Regarding financial support, there is a robust scholarship system, both from the government and the university. Regarding government scholarships, in response to the need to provide financial support for young people's career, the plan is to double their coverage. Por último, pero no menos importante, los enfoques comunitarios son clave para pensar la sustentabilidad de estos proyectos. Uruguay tiene una larga historia y cultura de colaboración con la sociedad civil y con organizaciones a nivel comunitario. La comunidad es un agente transformador en un mundo que nos impulsa al individualismo y a la soledad. Muchas gracias. Last but not least, community-based approaches are key to considering the sustainability of these projects. Uruguay has a long history and culture of collaboration with civil society and community-level organizations.
The community is a transformative agent in a world that fosters individualism and loneliness. Thank you so much.
Our last panelist for this panel. We will come back to Land Civil. Your organization, Arts IT, offer a holistic approach to education that includes mentorship, mental health support, and community building. Could you share any reflection or your experience on how we can create and scale comprehensive support system to young people, integrate these various dimensions of supports?
Arts 88 is an organization, I like to call it a creative nonprofit organization that uses technology and innovation to educate young people from vulnerable communities. We mostly work in Haiti, but right now we are also expanding our work here in the state and collaborating with people around the globe as much as possible. At Arts 88, we believe that education doesn't start and end in the classroom. In the community we serve, we've seen that young people can't thrive academically if they are struggling mentally, disconnected socially, and also struggling economically. That's why we integrate mentorship, mental health support, creativity, and community building into everything that we do. From my experience, what's work is not just offering services, it's building trust. In one of our programs, for example, students receive mentorship not just from adults, but from all the youth who've had similar experience just like them. For example, we had this creative art therapy that we did a couple of years ago with children attend with cancer. And this therapy session was led by young people that have received training for that. And it was easier for these children to really integrate and participate into this therapy session and help them really express how the aliveness was affecting them, illustrate that, because they were really younger people under 10. So we are talking about children that don't really know how to express their feelings, so they were able to do it through creativity. That peer-to-peer dynamic has helped create safe space where students feel seen but not judged. It's simple but powerful and often missing in more traditional education system. Scaling this kind of support isn't about copying and pasting a model everywhere. It's about listening to what young people need in their specific context, and then building ecosystem around them. We are talking about training mentor who reflect their identities, cultural relevant mental health support that remove stigma, community-centered initiative that give youth ownership and purpose. So one of the things we like to do is to just not hear something here in the state or around the world and just go do it in IT, but mostly listen to them, to each community. And each program that we try to do is illustrate to that specific community and their specific needs. On the other end, we cannot build this ecosystem in this project in silos. So we need governments, NGOs, youth network, and global partners to work together and bridge formal education with informal, emotional, and social learning space. And just like with digital education, marginalized youth must be at the center, not merging of this system. They don't need more top-down solution. They need consistent support, real inclusion, and resources that adapt to their reality, not the other way around. So at Arts, we're still growing. It's an organization that I funded 5 years ago, and I was still in college when I started it. But we are seeing real impact with this system that we are working with. And I truly believe that when you prioritize the whole human beyond the student, you unlock not only the academic potential, but the power they have to lead change in their community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all our panelists for this amazing discussion. And as I was saying as well, for my own experiences, last year, we have been organizing a youth leadership camp, youth hackathon since 2008. But last year, we just realized the importance of collaboration. And then because we always organize those camps with the network of youth that we have. But last year we were able to work with the government, which helped us not just to be in contact with youth that we had, but we went beyond our network. And then we also we worked with the UNDP, all those institutions, and not just the collaboration with those institutions, we were able also to bring a psychologic in our camp, so we will also have the mental health issues. And this also is what we have discussed. Collaboration is very important with youth in the center of the solution. So we will shift to our last session. Our final session will be forging lasting change, empowering youth through robust policies and support system. And here we already present all our panelists. We have Urmila Sankar. This time I say it well, right? Jacob Blazus, Executive Director, Global Student Forum, and Her Excellency Sro Sochet. So we will come back with our question. I will start with Urmila Sankar. How can we reimagine education and training system, not just to bridge today's skill gap, but to empower young people to shape the future of work? What approach have successfully integrated youth voice into the design of employment policy and program?
Yes, another great question. So I think reimagining education, we need to reimagine it. We need to challenge kind of traditional approaches and traditional models. And it means that we need to create systems where we are co-creating with young people, side by side with young people, not only to bridge the skills gap today, but also so that they can lead the future of the work, because they're the future, I mean, they're the next generation. And I think the other point I'd like to emphasize is that it's not really a linear pathway. Young people in the ages of 15 to 24 and beyond are often moving between school and work. And sometimes they're going to work and choose to be upskilled. So that's also important to understand. So that's why it's important to listen to our young people and how do they define their own aspirations and their destinies? How do they define? When we talk about decent work, when we talk about economic empowerment, it's really important to understand from them how they define it. And then we can play a bridging role with the private sector, with government, so that the two meet. And I think that that kind of strategy, the disadvantages that young people face in making that smooth transition from school to work, we've already heard from the other speakers some of the issues, they can be tackled well by employment strategy or national action plans on youth employment, which we have in several countries around the world, with the goal of sustained employment generation, poverty reduction, education and training, but really looking at the disadvantages that young people face in the labor market, their lack of experience, maybe lack of access to AI or digital skills, and all the kinds of things. How do we overcome them so that they can thrive in the labor market? And I think we've been working very closely with, as Generation Unlimited, with all the partners around the table and the ILO and the Global Initiative on Decent Jobs for Youth to ensure that young people are informing such policy design and implementation. And when I used to work at the ILO, I'm a product of the UN and far too long. But when I used to work with the ILO, I was really active in countries like Sri Lanka, like Philippines, Indonesia, where young people made a big difference in tackling issues of youth skilling, employment, and underemployment. We've also been working closely with the UNEP's Youth Environment Forum through the Green Jobs for Youth Pact. There, we're trying to understand better from young people, where are the new jobs? Where are the new opportunities in the blue economy and the green economy? We have a lot to learn from them. So at GenU, we also work towards achieving youth centrality and voice leadership and action. And at the core of our work, we have something called the Young People's Action Teams. They're very much like all the amazing young leaders that we've heard today. And it's a global and a local structure. And what we do is that they are really part of helping to define the strategy of Generation Unlimited. They're part of the Leadership Council with the CEOs of major corporations, of heads of state, of UN principles, but they're part of rolling out our work. And at a local level, we're working with them to promote entrepreneurship, to promote skilling, volunteerism, and really amazing initiatives in AI and green and so forth. So with young people, they're not just advisors, I think for all of us. They're entrepreneurs, they're technical innovators, they're poets, they're climate activists who directly inform and advise on a lot of our programs where they work well. Beyond consultation, I think it's important that we work, that these groups, they just don't give feedback, that we're co-creating with them, learning pathways, prototyping solutions, some of which we've heard about, and really holding us accountable as an international community. And I think this approach has been critical to driving inclusive and youth-led approaches and making sure that all young people are represented from all kinds of groups around the world into the design of youth-focused legislation, policy, strategies, and platforms. You take Amal, who's a young climate negotiator from Tunisia, and she has actively shaped conversations on youth-led climate action at the COPs, at the COP28, COP29 even recently. And her voice has helped spotlight youth priorities in intergovernmental negotiations on the future of green jobs and just transition. We have Vicky Ardi from Kenya, who's worked very closely with CEOs and policymakers in our leadership council to influence programs. And she's advising the Kenyan government on green jobs and green skills and doing trainings on environmental law for prosecutors across Kenya. So amazing leaders, some of which we've heard from today, but they're around the world. There's so many of them. So I think this approach assures that employment initiatives are not only technically sound, but deeply relevant, responsive to their aspirations, and resilient to changing labor market dynamics of supply and demand. And so finally, as the young people have told us, time and time again, when their ideas are treated as strategy, they feel ownership and drive innovation. So they're not just participants in education reform, they're the architects. When we equip them with tools, when they have trust and platforms to lead, we just don't close this gap on skills and jobs, we open new futures, and they're powered by these people, these young people who are going to shape it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. For the last, our two panelists, I will be very regarding on time because we have to start concluding. So I will come back to Jacob. As young leader yourself, what specific action do you believe are most effective in turning youth advocacy into actual policy change? Can you share example of how the Global Student Forum have successful influence or support tangible policy shift?
Thank you so much. My name is Jacob Beesjes. I'm the Executive Director of the Global Student Forum. I want to start off by thanking the whole team behind the reports. I think it sets out a great roadmap for a lot of really important conversations that we need to have. There is this thing that education and young people are both topics that no matter who you ask, they will have an opinion on it, and they will themselves believe that it's a qualified opinion. It often somehow isn't, because it is a complicated topic. It is something that demands our deep attention. I think for this really to get started in a good way, we need to move the conversation from kind of anecdotal and kind of like experiences of individuals to kind of more data-driven, systematic conversations where we kind of pull a lot of information from different partners about what works, what doesn't work. And I think in the Global Student Forum, that's really, really what we try to do when we look across our membership. They are coming from many different backgrounds. They are coming from many different perspectives. And we have members in 137 countries and territories, and they do not agree on everything. They are very different and they have very different aspirations. And I think the same goes for young people in general. So using these kinds of data, we can also start having conversations about more complicated topics. In the Global Student Forum, there's really it's been a great conversation in the last few years about young people becoming an important topic in the international arena, in the UN systems. And I recall a conversation that I was part of it was in Prague. It was after a student conference. It was in a bar because too many good conversations start in a bar. And then somebody says, but do we want the UN to care and so much about young people? Do we want their attention? Do we want them to define us? We won't do that ourselves. And that thing I've kept in mind for all my work since, because in this whole conversation about how do we bring young people to the forefront, how do we actually work with them, there is a big range of risk that we might run into. And these risks are, like, if all of you know them very well, it's everything from just going for the conclusions that we would have gone to anyway, and just now looping the young people in, like consulting them, saying, oh, what a great opinion you have, now we're going to do this sort of thing. It's the conversation about tokenism. It's about I will come to my conclusion, but thank you for reminding me. But all these risks are really something we try to identify, and using that already existing infrastructure of student representation across the world to say, how do we make sure that those conversations can exist at local levels, at national levels, and international levels, and that there's a cohesion between those conversations across the different levels. And I think because we've tried to do that in a way that is also student and youth-led, it can actually be successful in the long term. And I think that is true ownership of the processes.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I will finalize with Excellencies. Your Excellencies, based on your experience, what bold and forward-looking reform can government champion to change the status quo and address the deep-rooted structural barrier that young people face, particularly in the context of globalization and accelerating digital transformation?
Thank you very much for the questions. Because I'm from the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports and the government itself, I know that our Cambodian government have been doing a lot of things to encourage young people into digital era, because we aim to promote what we call digital government. We shall have digital citizen and digital youth, for example. So due to the interest of time, I will just make it into short 5 things that we are doing right now. The first one is to invest in digital education and skill development. So we integrate digital literacy into school curriculum, ensuring that students from all background gains essential skills for digital economy, and to provide scholarships and incentive to unprivileged youth to access higher education in tech related fields. Second thing, we expand our digital infrastructure. We improve internet accessibility and affordability, especially in rural area. We bridge the digital divide. The third one is to promote youth entrepreneurships, create platform for youth to start up by means of mentorship, funding, and networking opportunities. We encourage and provide incentive for social enterprise that address community challenges while leveraging digital tools. The fourth one is foster inclusive policy, ensuring that digital transformation policy prioritize gender equality and the inclusions of marginalized groups. When we talk about gender equality here, because I'm from the General Department of Youth, I feel a little bit, I don't know, but I'm used to me, but because when we talk about gender equality, we worry about girl. But in Cambodia, in my section, when we are talking about gender equality, or when we are doing a lot of things for youth, it seemed like I have 70% of my volunteer youth are female. So we have lack of male. I don't know whether they are too busy. So I mean, I'm happy enough that I can see that a lot of young girls and young women are very active, very enthusiastic into their own future. So in case I raised one of example, Miss Kyle Mei Huang, she actually was invited to be here in the UNSF to talk about girl in technovation. She was the only one, I mean, from a little girl from very rural area, but with big dreams. So now she's trying to do a lot of campaigns and awareness to for the people in the village, so that they can be comfortable with something we call digital, for example. The last one is about intergenerational collaboration. It can take on different form, including supporting young people to encourage to engage in scholarship, creating a platform for consultation, providing opportunity to young people to have career in government and business, government consultation with young organization in decision making, promoting exchange and learning practice between generations. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for our panelists for this important keynote. So like, as I'm coming every time with an experience, like for us in Kuvuna Foundation, as we say, our goal, our mission is mentor, equip, empower, and train. And last year, in our empowerment goals, we organized a youth leadership camp with the topic of good governance. So each of our youth were supposed to have a role of a minister. So here it's educational minister, and then they were supposed to give proposal for those ministers, and they came up with amazing solution, because our camp was focused on teenagers, and they were able to come up with great solution. They don't have PhD, they didn't go to university yet, but they were able to come up with those solutions. So having youth in the system, having them, empowering them, it's one of the solutions that we can bring out together, so those youth can bring amazing solution for the state. So, and then we are coming to the end of our session. Thank you for all our panelists. And then I think we will go.
Just I have one things that I want to share with you, all of us here. It's very important because today we have the young, we have the United Nations organization agency, and we have the government. This is something that we need to put it together, all of us, and to share with our government when we come back to our country, because all the things that we raised here today is good, and it's only can make a benefit and profit for our youth if we make it an application. Yes. As the Chief of Staff said, that when the United Nations Organization created this Under Secretary General in charge of the youth, it means that it's important. We are 1.2 billion in the world. In my country, we are 30 million population in Madagascar. 70% of us are under 30 years old. It means 22 million population. So this is one of the things. The second thing that I wanted to raise, just a few minutes, because I know that we reach the end, is, for example, when you have the United Nations agency in your country, and I know that they have the mandate to come there. So maybe you cannot ask to UNDP or to UNFPA such of thematic that are not theirs. But if you have a project, and what you say is very, very important. The young, they have a problem, they face a problem, and themselves, they can be the solution of the problem. Yeah. With the UNFPA, we create one youth corner in Madagascar with a foreign embassy founding. With UNDP, we work closely, and even with the international labor organizations. It means what? They have the target, they have the project. But if we just keep it as a theory, there is no practice, it will not take the path. So that is my main message. And I hope next time we'll have another time to make it very remarkable. Sorry to take the opportunity. Welcome to Madagascar for Youth Connect Africa Summit. Yes, we are waiting for 45 countries across Africa and 25,000 young across Africa.
Yeah, thank you so much, His Excellency. So now we are going to the end with the closing remark.
Let me close.
Yeah.
Thank you, moderator. Thank you, moderator. Let me start by Excellencies, dear young leaders, ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Minister, Excellency, Happy New Year.
Thank you.
But above all, let me congratulate and ask for a round of applause to our colleagues at UNICEF and UNFPA. Co-chairing leading this work on this meta synthesis, right? I'm also, on behalf of UNDP, extremely delighted and grateful that we are able to support Generation 17, to bring colleagues over here. You know, your voice is what makes the difference. You know, it's one of the best times that I spend is just to listen, get out of here very energized. Now, it's kind of hot in here. That's some AC going on. Let me be very brief, right? These meta syntheses, you know, led by our colleagues here with many other, including UNDP participation, draw on almost 300 evaluations from across the UN system. The meta synthesis launched today provides valuable and validated insights on how best to do things. A roadmap, as our colleague mentioned there. Now, to address the challenges and harness the potential of youth, let me give you 5 things that we pick up from that. 1, we got to go beyond the skills training to build a strong cross-sector partnership. As Jose said, partnership is everything. Engaging the private sector, government, civil society, youth-led organizations, as you just mentioned. We need all of those things. For us in UNDP, we have a program called UNDP Youth Empowerment Program in Pakistan. Partnership with over 60 private sector companies help facilitate job placements for 75,000 youth. 2, as Len said, ensure that our interventions are inclusive and equitable. Tailor our approaches to address the unique needs of different groups in their specific context and reach the most marginalized. 3, harness the power of digital transformation. A lot of you talked about digital transformation. To provide youth with future-focused skills and tools, equitable access to technology and digital education is crucial for preparing young people for the evolving job market. 4th, support youth leadership. You are here, support it. You matter, your leadership matter, and engage young people as key partners. We've mentioned that in all of your intervention, from policy design to program design and implementation. Harness the innovation, ensuring the relevance and ownership of the interventions. Finally, 5th, commit to long-term sustainable change through policy reform, institutional strength, and legal protections. Investing in youth education and employment is about more than preparing young people for the job market only. It is about investing in social justice, sustainability, and the power of a generation to drive minimum progress. I'm extending my sincere gratitude to all the speakers. Thank you. I've learned a lot. Panelists and participants for your valuable contribution. Your insights and experience are crucial in guiding our collective efforts to support and partner with young people. Let us take this momentum forward, grounded in evidence, guided by inclusion, and work together to build a world where every young person has the opportunity to reach their full potential, despite what is going on around the world right now. The world is yours, the future yours. We are going to help you make this a better world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Now we are really at the end of our session. And before we go, I will just do a call to action. First of all, for those who didn't scan yet, I will ask you to scan again so you can have the report. And the second, let us validate lesson and knowledge on enabling and enduring factor to inform youth program design decision making. Let us continue this important work, turning evidence into action. As the Excellency says, we have to go to action, and it's very important. Have a good ECOSOC sessions.